I just stood there, staring at the door Henry had slammed shut behind him. I had convinced myself for so long that I loved him, that he was the reason my family was secure, that his dominance and control were necessary for our survival. He always cared more about how others saw us than about what we truly felt. Later that night, Henry's voice broke through the silence, sharp and authoritative.
We'll have business partners visiting tomorrow,
He said, his eyes locking onto mine.
Be prepared. Look presentable.
I nodded without speaking. It was the same routine, his orders, his expectations. I woke up early next morning, the weight of the day already heavy on me. There was so much to do, so many things to get in order. I quickly told Mary and the others to prepare for the guests, making sure everything would be ready for when they arrived. I took extra care with myself, dressing up and trying to look presentable, though part of me knew it wouldn't matter. Mary noticed how I looked and smiled, saying,
You look beautiful today, miss.
Henry hadn't even spared me a glance, not a word of acknowledgement. As usual, he was lost in his own world, focused on things that mattered more to him than what I was doing or how I looked. When the guests arrived, Henry greeted them with an almost sugary sweetness, his smile perfectly placed, his posture flawless, a performance for their benefit. He was acting, no more than that. He was also sweet to me, his usual coldness replaced by a facade of affection.
This is my wife, Elizabeth,
Henry said, introducing me with a tone that suggested pride. The guests smiled warmly, exchanging polite pleasantries.
You two look like a wonderful couple.
One of them remarked, the words a mere formality. I nodded in response, trying to smile back. The conversation quickly shifted to business, talk of selling lands, investments, and future plans. Henry's tone changed again, becoming sharper, more authoritative as he discussed the deals. I was an afterthought, standing in the background, nodding and offering polite smiles when needed, but never truly part of the conversation. After a while, they were invited to the table where the meal Thomas, Mary, and I had prepared was laid out. As they all took their seats, the conversation continued, their voices mixing with the clink of silverware and the hum of polite chatter. I remained on the edge of the room, my presence mostly unnoticed, the weight of my silence pressing in. The laughter and discussions filled the space, but I felt detached, an observer more than a participant. I think I'll go to my room, I said quietly, the decision to leave already made. It felt right to withdraw, to escape the theater of charm and pretense. Henry didn't even glance up, still immersed in the business conversation. I turned, walking out of the room without another word. I was about to retreat to my room when Mary, noticing my mood, stopped me.
Miss?
She said, her voice gentle.
You look tired. Come with me. Let's go to the woods for a bit.
I looked at her, still unsure. I don't know, Mary. I'm not really in the mood for company.
Just for a little while,
She said, her tone light but persuasive.
You can sit by the water, and I'll be quiet. It'll be nice, I swear.
Her smile was warm, made it hard to say no. I sighed, feeling the weight of the day on me. Maybe a bit of quiet would help. All right, but not for long. I agreed, letting her pull me toward the door. The woods were a good walk from the house, tucked away behind thick trees and winding paths. The air smelled earthy, fresh, as if it had been untouched for ages. The only sounds were the occasional rustling of leaves and birds in the canopy above us. We didn't speak much as we walked, letting the peacefulness of the woods settle around us. After a while, we reached a small clearing by a stream, the water gently trickling over rocks and moss. For the first time that day, I could feel my shoulders relax.
See? Isn't it better out here?
Mary asked, her voice a soft whisper, as if the woods themselves might be listening. I didn't respond immediately. I just sat on the edge of a mossy rock and breathed in the crisp air. She was right. The woods felt like a world apart, their stillness offering the space I needed. After a while, I stood up, my gaze wandering over the forest floor. I'm gonna pick some mushrooms, I said, mostly to myself. Mary glanced up at me.
I'll come with you.
She said, getting to her feet. I shook my head, glancing back toward her. No, it's okay. I need to be alone for a bit. Mary's eyes softened, but she didn't push me.
All right, but don't be too long. It's getting late, and I don't want to be out here after dark.
I gave her a small, reassuring smile. I won't. I'll be quick. I walked deeper into the woods, the trees opening up to reveal patches of mushrooms growing beneath the ferns. The quiet enveloped me once again. This was exactly what I needed, a little solitude. I kneeled down to pick the mushrooms, the quiet of the woods wrapping around me like a comforting cloak. The earthy scent of the forest mixed with the crisp air, and for a moment I felt at peace. Then a sudden rustling broke the tranquility. "Mary?" I called out, my voice a little shaky as I stood up, looking around. But there was no response. From between the trees Louis appeared. He moved quietly, as if he belonged here in these woods. In his hands he held a bundle of herbs, their green and purple leaves vivid against the darker backdrop of the forest. I froze, shocked, unable to move for a moment, my eyes locked on him as I stood there, unsure of what to say. Louis took a step closer, his eyes scanning me with surprise.
"What are you doing here?"
he asked, his voice steady but curious. I glanced down at the mushrooms scattered around my feet. "I'm here to collect mushrooms," I replied, keeping my voice calm, though part of me felt the tension in the air. He raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback.
"You didn't send the servants to do this for you? You're still the same."
I was about to ask him what he was doing here, but before I could get the question out, he answered as if reading my mind.
"Of course,"
he said with a slight smile, his hand still holding the bundle of herbs.
"I'm collecting herbs."
I couldn't help but smile faintly as I looked at the bundle of herbs in his hands. "So, you really did follow through with your dream, didn't you?" I said, my voice soft but sincere. Louis's eyes seemed to soften at my words.
"It's called herbalism, actually,"
he replied, his tone a bit lighter now. "I remember you talking about it when we were children, always fascinated by plants and their uses." He chuckled, the sound warm but tinged with a bit of nostalgia.
"I never imagined I'd be here, though. Life's funny that way."
I let out a small, almost bitter laugh. Who would have thought that a poor girl like me would end up as the wife of a wealthy man? I said, my voice laced with a hint of disbelief. Louis glanced at me, his expression softening.
"Life does take strange turns,"
he said, his tone thoughtful. I paused for a moment, glancing down at the ground. Then, almost as if the question had been lingering for a while, I asked, Do you have a wife, Louis?" He nodded, a faint smile appearing on his face.
"Yes, I do. I'm married, and I love her very much."
There was a quiet warmth in his words. "I'm glad to hear that," I said softly. Louis knelt beside me, carefully picking mushrooms and adding them to a small cloth we had between us. As we worked, our conversation naturally shifted toward the past. I learned that after I had disappeared, Louis had gone to another town to study. He spoke of it quietly, as if the years had shaped him in ways that were hard to explain. I remembered the fascination he had with herbs when we were children. His interest had started after his mother passed away, the result of not being able to afford the medicine she so desperately needed. That memory, so vivid and painful, made my chest tighten as he spoke. When I reached for another mushroom, Louis's eyes were drawn to my arms.
"What happened to your arm?"
he asked, his voice gentle but insistent.
"You always seem to have wounds."
I hesitated, the question making my chest tighten. How could I explain? How could I put into words the things I had become so used to hiding? I forced a smile, trying to cover the pain. "It's nothing," I said quietly, my fingers brushing over the bruise. "Just an accident. I'll be fine." Louis didn't look convinced. His brow furrowed as he studied my arm.
"Elizabeth, this isn't normal. Why do you always have injuries like this?"
he pressed, concern evident in his voice. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his words. How could I tell him about Henry? How could I explain the things I had grown used to as if they were nothing? Instead, I simply shook my head and picked up another mushroom, avoiding his gaze. "Really, it's nothing. Let's just finish picking these."